Hello everyone, and welcome to another adventure with us. This is episode 2 of our UP trip of 2013, where we are heading back over the Mack Bridge to Fort Michilimackinac to spend the day sightseeing and learning all the great history this fort holds inside. Welcome to another episode of Skinner's Outdoor Adventures, where we take our family and travel around and see what sights and sounds that we can find. Fort Michilimackinac was built by the French on the south shore of the Straits of Mackinaw in approximately 1715. Previously, French presence in the Straits area was focused in what is now St. Ignace, where Father Marquette established a Jesuit mission in 1671, and Fort de Bade was established around 1683. In 1701, Cadillac moved the French garrison from St. Ignace to Detroit, which led to the closing of the mission and considerably reduced French occupation in the area. Several years later, as the French sought to expand the fur trade, they built Fort Michilimackinac to re-establish a French presence in the Straits area. Fort Michilimackinac was strategically located fortified trading post. The fort was not built primarily as a military facility, but as a link in the French trade system, which extended from Montreal through the Great Lakes region and northwest to Lake Winnipeg and beyond. Overlooking the Straits of Mackinac, connecting Lake Huron and Lake Michigan, the fort served as a supply post for French traders operating in the western Great Lakes region and as a primary stopping off point between Montreal and the western country. Fort Michilimackinac was an island of French presence on the frontier from which the French carried out the fur trade, sought alliances with native peoples, and protected their interests against the colonial ambitions of other European nations. Before 1763, the French used Fort Michilimackinac on the mainland south shore of the Straits of Mackinaw to control the area. After the Treaty of Paris, 1763, the British occupied the French fort but considered the wooden structure too difficult to defend. In 1780 and 81, its Lieutenant Governor Patrick Sinclair constructed a new limestone fort on the 150-foot limestone bluffs of Mackinaw Island above the Straits of Mackinaw. The British held the outpost throughout the American Revolutionary War. Captain Daniel Robinson commanded the garrison on Mackinaw Island from 1782 to his death in 1787. Despite the terms of the Treaty of Paris, 1783, the British did not officially relinquish the fort to the United States until 1796. In 1761, the French relinquished Fort Michilimackinac to the British, who had assumed control of Canada as a result of their victory in the French and Indian War. Under the British, the fort continued to serve as a major fur trade facility. The Ottawa and Chippewa in the Straits area, however, found British policies harsh compared to those of the French, and they resented the British takeover. In 1763, as part of Pontiac's rebellion, a group of Chippewas staged a ball game outside the stockade to create a diversion and gain entrance to the post, and then attacked and killed most of the British occupants. The use of Fort Michilimackinac came to an end in 1781 when the British abandoned the post and moved to Fort Mackinaw on Mackinaw Island. In 1959, the Mackinaw Island State Park Commission contracted with Michigan State University to carry out a season of excavation at Michillmackinac. Thus began an archaeology project that has continued every summer since. One of the longest ongoing projects of its kind, much of the west half of the fort was excavated and rebuilt during the 1960s. By 1969, it was apparent that overseeing archaeology at Michillmackinac was a full-time job, and Dr. Lyle Stone was hired as the Commission's first staff archaeologist. Excavation moved outside the walls in the early 1970s when 3 row houses from the suburb of the fort were discovered prior to building the visitor center under the Mackinac Bridge. In 1974, excavation resumed inside the fort walls, leaving the west side behind. Archaeologists began to work on the powder magazine, which turned out to be the most intact building ruin at Michilimackinac. Work continued in the southeast corner of the fort for the next 2 decades, including the excavation of multiple row house units, most notable the home of Exilier Solomon, Michigan's first Jewish settler. In 1998, archaeologists returned to the southwest corner of the fort to tie together current results with excavations done in the 1960s. This project resulted in the reconstruction of the southwest row house in 2013. We are now excavating part of the southeast row house. During our trip, we got to watch them shoot off the big cannon out front of the fort. It was loud and you could feel it right in your chest. The kids enjoyed walking through all the buildings and down into the powder magazine area where they could see some of the original walls of the fort. There were a lot of artifacts on display they had found on the fort site down there as well. Another area they liked was the history movie theater of the history of the fort. Some of the movie was on the screen and some of it was live action. We enjoyed all the hands-on activities as well they had available for everyone to do. There is a blacksmith shop on site that they could watch them make items. There were also uniform costumes that they could try on. I enjoyed putting them in the jail cell and the stockades. This is a great place to take the whole family to find out some great history about Michigan and let them explore around. Mackinaw State Historic Parks turns 125 years old in 2020. Established in 1895 when the federal government shuttered the country's second national park, Mackinaw National Park, the Mackinac Island State Park Commission has pursued the important mission of protecting, preserving, and presenting Mackinaw's natural and historic wonders. Today, Mackinaw State Historic Parks is a family of living history museums and nature parks located in Mackinaw City and on Mackinac Island. To celebrate this milestone anniversary, Mackinaw State Historic Parks will have 125 days of events throughout the 2020 season, spread across its family of sites and parks. Most of the events take place throughout the 2020 season will be free. Others will be included with regular admission to MSHP's historic sites. Mackinaw State Historic Parks wouldn't be where it is today without the tremendous support of visitors to the state parks and historic sites. Offering a full season of events is a small way the park can say thank you for 125 wonderful years.
Hey, ready! Hey!
I hope you enjoyed our visit to Fort Michilimackinac and some of the history behind it all. And remember, like and subscribe if you enjoy what you're watching.